From the shadows of the National Palace
to the muddy trenches of politics. This is the pigsty, the pigpen of politics with Camerano.
Thanks for watching. How are my little piggies in this pig pen called Mexico? I hope you've already gotten over your hangover, that your Christmas was full of blessings, or at least that the turkey wasn't too dry, like the mind of an officialist Twitter user defending the indefensible. The toasts are done, and the Judas hugs have been given. And meanwhile, are you still dealing with the heartburn from the punch and the drama that the clothes you were given didn't fit? The national political scene? Those pigs that never rest are already back in the mud, wallowing with an energy that the Federal Electricity Commission would envy during a blackout. We thought that the Christmas spirit would make them feel a little bit of shame, but no way. Decency in this country has less of a future than a campaign promise in the subway. While you were fighting over the last chicken leg, the royal family of welfare kept giving us lessons on how to live true austerity, but austerity is a spirit. Their wallet is more stuffed than the ego of the maid who lives in the palace. As the classic Houston would say, we have a problem, and luxury bags are coming. What you are about to see is not a mere coincidence, much less a conservative attack orchestrated from the shadows by the very ghost of Maximilian of Habsburg. It is plain and simple, the physical evidence of a system that was sold as the antidote to privilege, and it ended up becoming its heir. More voracious, more cynical, and of course, more expensive. Imagine the scene over there in Houston, Texas. No, it's not a cowboy movie, it's the safari of transformation. A man leaves a store where the air conditioning smells like new bills, clutching his bags, with a nervousness greater than a medical student at his first exam. He looks both ways, with the paranoia of someone who knows that his dad's speech doesn't match the receipt. Noticing the lens of truth watching him, he quickens his pace. That man is the pig Jose Ramon Lopez Beltran. Yes, the firstborn of the man who for years gave us the syrup that a pair of shoes and pants were enough, but it turns out that for the son, the shoes have to have red soles and the pants have to be expensive. A construction worker's 3 months of hard work pay isn't an exception, my dear pigs. It's the closing of a circle of hypocrisy that began with the sadly famous Gray House. That mansion linked to Pemex contractors, which, according to them, was a loan from Christian charity, now strolls through the world's most exclusive designer stores. In Mexico, the official narrative often glorifies poverty as a mystical virtue, as if being poor grants automatic entry into the realm of honesty. Abroad, the royal family of Obradorism embraces the most ruthless capitalism with a naturalness that is shocking. What a way to fight the empire, going to leave your dollars in their cash register. It's the clan of the ambitious, but at the public's expense. Let's not just focus on the heir of the Houston Gate. The pattern repeats like an endless echo in the clan of the honest ones. Andy Lopez Beltran, spotted in Japan not eating 50 peso ramen, but frequenting upscale areas. No average voter of the transformation could ever dream of setting foot there, not even in their wildest fantasies, brought on by too much tafil. The youngest son flaunts brand-name sneakers and designer clothes, feeding into that aspirational style that the former president himself, his father, criticized so much in his morning press conferences, calling those who wanted to get ahead Ladinos. Apparently, aspiration is a mortal sin for the people, but an essential requirement for these bastards. And this is where the pig twists its tail. Or in other words, the question that turns into a dagger, or at least a well-sharpened ice pick. What do they do for a living? Where are their companies, their patents, their technological innovations, their business risks? There are no answers, only a deafening silence, protected by a cloud of power and bodyguards. You and I pay for it while getting robbed on the bus. Is this the new elite, or just a different collar on the same dog? This phenomenon doesn't end with the blood family, it extends to the in-laws. Those parasites who once shouted, "Down with the regime," now just say, "Pass me the champagne." Senators in five-star hotels in Europe, surely investigating how to improve the drainage. In Ecatepec, deputies in first class and officials on private planes. The new political class didn't come to eradicate privileges, they came to inherit them with an old hunger, and they changed the language, not the behavior. They now call it social justice, but we used to call it getting rich off the people. The worst part isn't the luxury, but the business's origin. The names float to the top like grease in old broth. Amilcar Olin, the businessman close to the princes, linked to public contracts, and according to testimonies, to the use of stolen fuel, the famous Huachicol, to cut costs on the Maya train. Take note. The same government that swore to end fuel theft. Today it seems to have it ingrained in its flagship projects. It's as if the firefighter were using gasoline to put out the fire, because the bill comes out cheaper for him. Here comes the uncomfortable truth. The poetics of cynicism. The irony is so brutal that it borders on the poetic, an ode to shamelessness that should be studied in the faculties of political science and psychiatry. They attacked Spain demanding historical apologies for the conquest, but as soon as they could, they rushed to get Spanish citizenship. Olé, for their consistency. They defend the dictatorships of Cuba and Venezuela with a passion that even a Bolivarian would envy. But interestingly, they're not. We don't see them grocery shopping in Havana, looking for medicine in Caracas. They shop in Houston, vacation in Tokyo, and save in dollars. What we're witnessing is not the birth of a new ethical era, but the restoration of the system's deepest vices. Now disguised in a guayabera, and with a speech about the people's cause, they told us they were different. But history, the real one, the one that's not invented at a wooden podium, tells us something different every morning. The deception was so deep-rooted, it began even before they took power. Do you remember the trust fund for others? That money meant for the victims of the 2017 earthquake. That ended up conveniently fueling a carousel operation to divert millions of pesos in cash for electoral purposes. How generous they were helping others, as long as those others were their own party. And if that wasn't enough, there is the graphic evidence, the kind that those in power try to erase with pious adjectives and Martín López Obrador. They weren't attacks from the conservative press. They were videos of the brothers receiving wads of cash in yellow envelopes. The official response was a gem of semantics that would make any language scholar look like a fool. It wasn't corruption, it was contributions. Cynicism raised to state policy. But the embezzlement isn't just in manila envelopes, it's in cement and steel. And people's dreams, that myth of efficiency, collapse when we scratch just a little beneath the surface. Segalmex, a record 15 billion peso embezzlement. Did the money for hunger disappear? The mega pharmacy, presented as the largest pharmacy in the world, and surely in the known universe. Today it's just an empty rat-infested warehouse. The four-legged kind, since the two-legged ones are the jerks always denying that embezzlement. Meanwhile, the patients are still waiting for the miracle of medicine to arrive before the Dos Bocas funeral home does. A refinery that doubled its cost to $16 billion. And despite the ribbon-cutting ceremonies, applause, and confetti, it's barely operating, but far below its capacity. That's for sure. It's already flooded several times whenever it rains. This is, without a doubt, the return of the Institutional Revolutionary Party, but without the shame. The old Institutional Revolutionary Party, with all its shadows, would even imprison its own corrupt members to keep up appearances, so it wouldn't look so bad. In this transformation, justice is selective and short-sighted. They use a telescope to see others' past flaws, but wear a silk blindfold to ignore the present. Morena claimed, "We are not the same," but now has ex-mayors under investigation, accused officials, and contracts reminiscent of the old ways. It's a miserable question that lingers in the air, and that those in power refuse to answer while they wipe their mouths with a linen napkin. The question is, when is Morena going to imprison its own members? A justice system that only goes after ghosts from the past, while leaving the impunity of its own allies untouched. It's not justice, it's group protection, it's a mafia, with a better public relations department. What was once shouted in public squares is now quietly justified in offices, or dismissed as a media attack. From the pulpit of power? Republican austerity was a useful narrative to seize power. not a conviction to exercise it. The wolf, very hungry, wore a little sheep disguise. At the end of the day, when the smoke from the propaganda clears and the cheerleaders go to sleep, all that's left is a Hermes bag, an offshore account, and a man running from a camera in Houston. Mexico doesn't need more silence, it needs memory, because when power is inherited and vices are forgiven, speech turns into smoke. And here at La Posilga, we're not here to repeat fairy tales, we're here to question them, to smell the rot, and to tell them to their face that the king is naked, or better yet, dressed in designer brands. With our money, so now keep enjoying your leftovers if you could even afford them, because we're still the ones paying for the family's luxuries. Thank you for questioning the official narrative and not accepting so-called alternative facts, and for realizing that ultimately, corruption isn't tied to any party, but it does have beneficiaries with very well-known last names. See you Monday, when reality unsettles those in power again. Stay in the mud. That's where you see politics' true face. I'm Che Morano, and this was The Pigsty, the political pig pen. Take care, pigs, if they'll allow it.
Goodbye. Subtitles by Santiago Madrigal. This is The Pigsty, the pig pen of politics with Che Morano.